Hello there, brothers and sisters. Thanks for joining me again. So today thought I would take a slightly different tack. I found this story in the Standard, and it looks like it's from just a few days ago. And it's really around it is really around illegal migration and paying migrant workers to work in your restaurants. So let's read it, and I'll put a link to this in the notes when I'm done, so you can read it later. So it's in the news and politics section. Minister urges council not to revoke license of Indian restaurant facing closure after hiring illegal workers. Sir Stephen Timms used a letter in support of Udaya, which received a £180,000 Home Office fine for employing four illegal workers. Wow, 180,000, that's a lot. Let's see. This looks like it's about 5 minutes long. Let me watch this and let's see what we think here and see if it's related. If it's not, then I'll just move on. But I haven't watched this. I haven't even read this full story yet.
The government's recently announced a crackdown on illegal working and immigration crime. So we were just looking at what kind of businesses have been fined or caught hiring illegal workers in the capital and what illegal working looks like in London. I'm Rachel Burford, the Chief Political Correspondent at the London Standard. Obviously there are certain businesses that you associate perhaps with illegal working more than others. Places like, car washes, nail salons, some of those barber shops that have sprung up across the high streets across the country. They're often reported on as places where illegal working happens and, associated with that kind of crime. But in London, when we were looking at the figures and what kind of businesses had been fined or had been caught hiring illegal workers, there was a lot of places that you might not necessarily expect, very exclusive restaurants, big name brands, hotels. So it was sort of interesting to see how, illegal.
See, I completely disagree with her. She's before she started doing this, I think she was living in a bubble. 100% hotels use illegal workers. 100% restaurants at all levels use illegal workers. And I just have America to go by. But you find illegal workers in any service industry, any industry that's not like a high level kind of corporate position that really almost requires a high level of education on your CV, you will find illegal workers. So I'm glad she figured that out. She didn't know that.
Working is happening in, some sort of premier establishments in the capital. In terms of their motivation, I mean, some people are promised jobs by people trafficking gangs, and when they get here, they are not perhaps the jobs that they thought they were going to be getting. The vast majority come here for a better life and to work, and they find themselves trapped in situations, I think,
Yeah, I agree with that. The majority of migrants who come into a country are just looking for a better life, and but the problem is that the migration numbers are so high that you have a bunch of criminals mixed in with them, and you can't tell the criminals from the hardworking folk, and you just can't take the volume of people coming in. So it's kind of a twofold problem. You don't want the criminals at all, but you have too many other workers coming in too. So what do? I say anyone who's in a country illegally, you should send them home or send them somewhere, just not here, because they're in the country illegally. I don't have to hear anything else. I don't have to hear about their situation at home. I don't have to hear about anything because they're here illegally. That's enough for me.
They were perhaps not expecting. As part of the investigation, we looked at some of the places that have been caught, and some of the workers there reported working in excess of 65 hours a week for very little money, in some cases £6 an hour, half minimum wage. So what you've got there.
Yeah, so that's the dirty secret right there. It's these businesses want the cheap labor, and so the activists get out there and they pull at your heartstrings. It's like, oh my God, that person lives in a horrible place. You can't send them back. They'll have a horrible life there. Yes, that's right. That's why they're in the UK, or that's why they're in the US, because wherever they're going to go, their life is going to be worse than it is here. Problem is, you can't take everyone. And then the businesses are all profiting. They are hiring these people for wages that are almost slave labor. These people don't have contracts. They don't get all the benefits a citizen would get. And they pay them a lot less and work them a lot harder. And some of these people are quite willing to do that. That's still better than the life they had where they came from. But these companies get the benefit of not having to pay what Britons or Americans would think of as a fit wage. And so it's basically slave labor. They can't complain, because if they complain, they're illegal. They can be kicked out of the country. So people forget that these people are basically slaves.
Is a workforce in your kitchen or restaurant or business who are totally reliant on you. They don't get sick pay, they don't get holiday pay.
That's right.
They don't expect or are not entitled to the workers' rights that British workers would expect. The Home Office has announced a big crackdown on illegal working. This manifests as increasing the fines for businesses who are caught hiring illegal workers. They're also targeting the people trafficking gangs, which are the people that are smuggling people across the channel, and they're working with other countries to dismantle that business model that those gangs have. One of the restaurants that we looked at in the piece is a place called Faya Cottage that was raided by immigration in December, and they claim to have the best dumplings in London. And it is a restaurant that was used as a set in the Netflix series Black Doves. And what they found when they were there was that half the staff on shift were actually working illegally. And I think what was especially interesting about this place was not just that it has become quite a sort of famous and well-established dim sum restaurant in London, but that the workers in those kitchens, one of them came to the UK in 2012, had been caught working illegally in a different restaurant in 2018, had been arrested, absconded. His application for asylum is still being assessed all these years later. Charities have warned that a crackdown in one industry on illegal working just moves it to another industry.
And the whole asylum thing is just a glitch in the system. It's an exploit. Because what they figured out is, hey, I'll come here illegally and then I'll ask for asylum because of whatever, and then it takes years to process that asylum claim and kick them out of the country. No, they should not be able to claim asylum if they're in your country illegally. If you want to claim asylum, you need to come to the country legally, and then get your asylum claim worked on. If you're here illegally, we should just kick you out. Period. End of story. Because every single one of them claims asylum, and then that slows the system down for years. So you guys are going about it wrong, and they do the same thing in the U.S. AOC, famously, questioned Tom Homan and said, "Hey, but these people are seeking asylum. They need asylum. It's horrible back where they're at." Well, then they should have come to the country legally if they wanted that. I'm all for helping out refugees, but they have to come the right way, and we can only let a certain number in every year, and whatever number that is needs to be decided by the legislature of the country. So in America, that would be Congress, and in the UK, that'd be Parliament, I guess. But if you don't follow the process, then you should be kicked out. Period. They all have sad stories, and some of those sad stories are made up.
You have these big people trafficking gangs operating, providing workers for certain places. You then have people who are here who need to work to survive, and they're willing to forego, a lot of workers' rights to work somewhere. And you can see by the people that are caught in working in these kitchens, working in these jobs that, you know, many of them have been here for over a decade, or for many years. You know, some of these people cannot be deported because of the countries they're coming from. You know, Keir Starmer said earlier this year that the UK had been a soft touch, was the phrase he used, on illegal working for far too long. But for the people already here that need jobs, you know, they find themselves in a possible situation. What the Home Office is trying to do is target and dismantle those people trafficking gangs. But with these increased number of raids, what you also see is actually the victims of exploitation facing the sort of biggest punishment here. Although they're hoping, I think, the government, that the increase in fines will put off more companies from hiring illegal workers.
All right, that was a good piece. I liked what she had to say there. I think it was overall fair, given the situation. I really don't disagree with much that she had to say. I'm glad she had her eyes opened that these people are working even in the most posh restaurants that she never would have thought. Of course they are. Who do you think works in restaurants? It's our lowest paid workers in every country. You have no, high educational skills, but everyone can learn how to cook pretty quick. So it's very low skilled labor for the most part. You don't need to go to school for 4 years to be able to cook, or to pick crops, or to clean rooms in a hotel, even the posh hotels. So they're all doing it because they make a lot of money that way. So let's read the story real quick and let's see what else is here. Like I said, I haven't read this before. All right. A government minister has urged London Council not to revoke the license of a celebrated Indian restaurant facing closure after an immigration raid uncovered illegal workers. Oh yeah, it's a poor Indian family that'll be impacted if we find them. And £180,000 is no joke. For a restaurant that will probably put them out of business. Udaya, which has operated for over a quarter of a century in East Ham, received a £180,000 fine when 4 people with no right to work in the UK were found employed there last June. The Home Office also applied to Newham Council to revoke the restaurant's license to sell alcohol, open late, and play music, with the hearing due on Monday. But Sir Stephen Timms, a minister in the Department for Work and Pensions, said he had been assured that the failure to complete the adequate right-to-work checks was not deliberate, and the business is a well-regarded part of Newham's diverse food scene. So this is a picture of the restaurant. I used to like Indian food. I've been to India a couple of times, and it's a nice place to visit. And so anyone who ever gets a chance to India, I would say definitely go. I had a great time on my 2 visits. The restaurant under previous owners has catered the East Ham MP's silver wedding anniversary party in 2011, and he said he has visited on many occasions and always been impressed by the professionalism of the team. In a letter to the council's licensing committee on behalf of restaurant owner Prajesh Kumar, Sir Stephen said, "I understand that the Home Office is seeking to revoke the restaurant's premises license following a civil penalty issued last year for employing individuals without the right to work. Mr. Kumar has accepted responsibility for this breach and has taken significant steps to ensure full compliance in the future, including verified right-to-work checks, staff training, and internal audits. This is a first offense. I am assured it was not deliberate. Since then, the business has cooperated fully with authorities and has already paid a substantial portion of the £180,000 penalty. Udaya is a well-regarded part of Newham's diverse food scene. It serves a wide customer base and contributes positively to the local economy and the community. I visited the restaurant myself on many occasions and have always been impressed by the professionalism and care shown by the team. I hope the committee will take into account the steps the business has taken to rectify its mistake, the serious consequences that revoking the license would have for its future, and the loss that would be suffered by the local community. Thank you for your help." So yeah, wow, this must be a very deep-pocketed restaurant. £180,000. Most restaurants could not absorb that. 100% you're going out of business. So my thoughts on this: good, revoke their license. This was this was not an oversight. They knew what they were doing. The I actually feel it's very unfair to only target the people that are in the country illegally. The way to really stop this is to go after the businesses employing them. If the businesses stopped employing them and hired people who had a right to work, paid them a fair wage, gave them a fair amount of benefits, we wouldn't have this problem. But we do, because these guys are using basically slave labor. And so the way to stop this is fine all those restaurants, put all those restaurants out of business, so that those jobs aren't there anymore. Then the people will stop coming. And Britons will get those jobs. It would actually be good for unemployment of people that are legally in the country. And so, I feel bad for the owners of Udaya, and I'm sure by now they've been here a while, and even if they are of Indian descent, they're British citizens, but they need to be paying people a fair wage, and so I'm all for this. Find them, find more people. All right, that's what I got. If you liked it, give me a like and a subscribe. If you didn't like it, don't watch me. If I get this wrong and you think that most of the people working in restaurants and the service industry in the UK are legal and are making a fair wage, feel free to tell me in the comments that I'm wrong. Give me some evidence that I'm wrong, and then maybe I'll change my mind. Thanks. Bye. Talk to you guys soon.